I ain't never heard of that.
Word. What's your shit say? What's the T say?
Talking to plants is one way of talking directly to spirit.
That's deep. That's deep.
Swimming. Yeah, source wizards emotions. Got witches with ointments. Got crystals and oils. My bloodline is loyal. My lifeline is royal.
That's how we starting off today, my peoples. Hope everybody feeling good. Welcome to the Swim Network. I'm Willie Contraband.
I'm TAMO.
And this is
Climate Control.
Yeah, baby. Powered by the Swimcast. So get in tune, tap in, subscribe. This is the new channel, the Swim Network. And there's going to be one of the main series, Climate Control, because shit about to get hot. Boy. But we got to help everybody stay cool.
Yeah.
You feel me? So yeah, bro, we got a couple things we want to, share with the people. I would say, what's the point of this? Why are we doing this?
I would say to feed the mind and the soul through the medium of entertainment.
Wow.
This ain't scripted either, so.
yeah, I'm actually listening.
This ain't scripted.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. Let me take a sip of my tea real quick. Yeah, I resonate with that. I definitely agree. We're here to, feed some good stuff to your mind. There's a lot of timelines and feeds out there right now that aren't serving us our best, not giving us much nutrition, not much food for thought that's going to fill us up and allow us to process the right things, to multiply and make more in terms of where we're intaking. A lot of things are taking away from us. So I think this is a good platform for that. If no one's familiar with swim's actually, I don't even know how to explain it other than a lifestyle brand at this point. Swim is a music platform, an artist platform, exposure platform. We got Source Water in motion, baby. We got a water company. And now we got the Swim Network here, which is a way for us to connect. And, a person like me and Tamo, we're very in the physical, we like to connect with people in the real world, and also at the same time, going through these last 2 years of the pandemic, we learned we also kind of got to find a balance in connecting with people in the digital world. You feel me?
Most definitely.
So this is what the Swim Network is about. This is what the Swimcast is about. When you want to look up some videos or you're driving and you want to listen to something on the way to work or wherever you're going to, we're giving you a good stream of information, good vibrations, just so we all could really connect in multiple dimensions, whether it is the physical or the digital world, because we also throw a lot of events. We're performers, we're artists, and we know not everyone can make it to our shows. So this is a good way so you guys can stay in tune with everything we're doing beyond the podcast, Swimcast, but in the real world too, and find a way for us to connect,
And to also keep people connected with their highest potential. Because it's not just about consciousness, about progressing.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. We're big also on, being intentful, being mindful, being aware of, the current energy, the elements around us, internal turmoils or journeys and battles you're going within. So we're big on that, and this is what climate control is about. It more than anything, I think what just hit me, instead of trying to control the climate out there, we're going to assist in helping people control the climate in here. You feel me?
Room temperature.
Room temperature.
Exactly.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think the first thing we want to touch on when we're talking about the climate, the atmosphere, the weather of things, is the mental realm. One thing, especially me and TAMO, we kind of been like concurrently, simultaneously going through this path. But really getting deep into the world of mental health.
Mental health.
Mental health.
Mental health.
That is big. That's major. And I would say, what do you think is the reason that mental health has become a focal point in things now?
I think mental health is more important now just because the society is being shifted by the youth. And the people who came before us, our predecessors, it was more so about leave it in the house, don't bring this outside, versus the youth these days are about letting it be known on their platforms. So I think the platform is kind of what shifted the mental health.
Wow.
Because, now everybody's speaking on it.
Yeah, I like how you touched on that, bro. Wow. Because that flips it on, like, how to view the platforms, how we view social media. Because a lot of the times I'm like, I know it's good to connect, like we're doing right now with y'all. But at the same time, I know that that takes away from actual connection in the real world. But you mentioning that's deep because that does kind of make sense. Like these platforms, social media, a way for people to, express themselves and have a voice. A lot of people use it in a way to be like, hey, I'm not okay. Or hey, I'm going through some shit.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. Whatever works for you.
Big facts.
It's important to not let things suppress. Because I didn't used to think about mental health at all. Yeah. Like, it was always just like, suck it up and roll.
Yep, keep it moving. Yeah, mental health is big. I mean, there's a lot coming up now. I was gonna say my brother Poet, he's in the building.
Shout out to Poet.
Shout out to Poet. If at any point, whether this or anything, you could chime in. We out here at Tuscarora Studios, you already know. But going back to mental health is just, I think it's rising too because we've reached to a boiling point. Talking about climate control. But we've reached to a boiling point that, we can't keep these things in anymore, and not even that it's like we can't in terms of like, oh, I can't hold on to it no more, but in terms of like it's you seeing the effect it's having on the society, on all of us. And even I was just mentioning to my brother Poet before is that like I didn't even realize before we entered this space of really dealing with mental health work and dealing with all that shadow work that I had problems. You know what I mean? Like I was dealing with a lot of things internally, mentally that I wasn't even aware of until I got into this space and became mindful of this and learned that like there's terms and there's things that like there's other people that have gone through this and feel like this, and there's a lot of people going through this and this is how you could cope with it. You don't have to cope with, the regular things that we learn from where we come from, where it's just like drinking and smoking and doing some crazy shit just because,
numbing out.
Right, numbing out, exactly.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that because before I've had years where I felt like I relived the same year, like the same accident, just a different place, the same charge, just a different officer. I just felt like the same things were happening. And Carl Jung talks about we have to make the unconscious conscious. Otherwise, it's gonna keep running your life and you're gonna call it destiny or you're gonna call it fate. And I really had to reflect on that statement just because I was thinking about the make the unconscious conscious, and they always tell us like, oh well, you're conscious. Once you're conscious, you can't go back unconscious. But that's not what he was speaking on. He was speaking on it more so as the dormant parts of your psyche and your soul and your mind have to come to the surface and integrate with the lighter aspects and more pleasurable traits of yourself. Otherwise, it's gonna keep being there. Examples: childhood trauma, just trauma in general, post-traumatic stress disorder, just things that we don't usually want to talk about are the main things that we have to reveal in order to heal.
That's hard, bro. That's deep. But I agree with that, and I feel like that kind of just goes hand in hand a little bit with what I was saying in terms of like, I wasn't even aware of what I was going through, and that's like, if you don't make the unconscious conscious, that shit's gonna run you. And it's like I didn't realize how a lot of things that I'm aware of now in terms of mental health, how like I was, it was running my life. Like those things, those turmoils, those toxic behaviors or toxic patterns that I didn't want to face, you know what I mean? Was making me act a certain way every day, or, messing up my process of healing, because I wasn't really bringing it to the surface. And now I feel like, being aware of all these things does allow me to have a better handle on how I'm navigating my life, Um, and I think that comes around to as well with like self-love. Because bringing things to the conscious is like, all right, that's usually the initiation of
a rebirth.
Right.
Yeah.
Bringing it to the conscious and being like, oh shit, all right, now I know this is wrong with me, but like, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to go about this healing process? Oh, self-love, because now I'm aware that something's up with me and I want to be good. I want to be in a good place. I want to fix that. So self-love comes hand in hand with mental health because, mental health is just like, it's the same thing like with physical health, it's like being aware of something like when you're sick, but like, are you putting yourself in an environment to get better? Are you stop doing the things that are making you sick or eating things that are making you sick? Like that's self-love, that's caring for yourself,
Yeah, and you have to be willing and receptive to it because it's not just something that happens overnight, clearly, but for the most part, it's one day at a time, moment to moment awareness because when you don't, it's easy to get comfortable and slip back into like your old ways, and then it's like it builds like a snowball for like an avalanche, and by the time it builds up, whatever suppressed comes out. That's why I'd be like, oh well, she was quiet, and then she just flipped out because all that was repressed, and it wasn't about the moment. That's just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Where, bro? I feel that. What would you say? Like we already told people, me and TAMO, we've been on this journey kind of simultaneously, concurrently, discovering, mental health is actually a thing. Discovering, all right, there's healthy ways to go about things. There's ways to have a healthy communication with each other. There's healthy ways to talk to yourself, there's a lot of different alternative healthy ways we could go about life. What would you say is like your number one or two main things that you go to help you with cope with things now that you're kind of aware of this world?
As far as what like self-love?
Yeah, like with mental health, self-love, it's like one of the biggest things I know, because this is where we both are on the same frequency, is like water. Like when you're trying to get your mind right, get the gallon challenge popping. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So you want to speak on that?
Yeah, water definitely helps. I mean, I feel like I could do a lot better, but I know for a fact that when I get in that momentum of drinking a gallon a day, my mood is totally different because water is alive.
Yeah.
They did research on water, and it was a Japanese pseudoscientist, and he talked to 3 different glasses of water, and then he put them under a microscope after like a week, and he measured he observed the molecules, and the molecules that he was speaking negatively to were like kind of jagged. There was no symmetry to it. And then the other molecules that he didn't say anything to looked kind of just stagnant and just in a stasis, just no motion at all. And the ones that he spoke highly of had a beautiful symmetry to it. So water is alive. So I know for a fact that when I drink more water, I definitely feel different, and it makes my mind just clear up. Like, all right, I need to go to the park. I need to get some exercise. I need to, you know what I mean? Just makes me not want to intake certain substances and foods just because like the water is a detox. But water definitely. But also I think just disciplining myself to stay observant of my patterns and knowing myself, relearning myself, and just dropping aspects of myself that I don't really like, the stuff that I can change, because there's other stuff that I don't like that I can't really, I can't, but I just do what I can.
Right.
So like affirmations, that's something I can do. You know what I mean? Right now in the moment. So I think just water as a physical, but mentally too. I had to renovate my mind. You know what I mean? I had to renovate my mind. I had to change what I watch. I had to change what I read. I had to change the people around me. Because, you know, sometimes you'll be growing and the people around you are not growing. And that's one of the things when I was in Charlotte, I started learning all this conscious stuff, and I started learning about just, you know what I mean, evolving. And I couldn't really do it because my environment wasn't really conducive to my growth. So I had to learn to reboot, refresh, and reset my, you know what I'm saying, my input, whatever I'm taking in. So most definitely. But yeah, man, just relearning myself.
For sure.
What about you?
Well, definitely the water thing. Just to follow up on that, I know like water is also like a solvent. I don't know if you heard of that, but water is a solvent. So, you know, water is also like a base in most liquids as well. But when I hear the word solvent, and water is a solvent, and it also dissolves things, you know, and you're talking about detox, you know, and physical, biological detox, but also mental detox, and also detox of your environment. You're like, oh, you know, I stopped doing the things I was doing. I stopped hanging out with certain people, et cetera, et cetera. Like things are clearing out, you know, they're dissolving. So I think like the water is also big in my life. You know, I like what you said about the pattern. You know, it helps you like
recognizing patterns.
Yep. Because patterns, going back to mental health, that you have to be able to identify certain patterns, and until you're able to change them.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So water is a good thing for that, because I know when I started drinking a lot of water, this is back like 2014, 15, 2016, heavy. I remember I just started being able, like after like a week or two heavy drinking water, I was able to just start seeing myself for the situations I was in. Instead of like being so in it, I was able to see it clearly. You know, it's kind of like sometimes when like life is almost like sometimes at certain points it gets blurry, like when you have an adrenaline rush. You know what I mean? You have an adrenaline rush and so much happens and you don't even remember, but you're so full of energy and all this. Life is like that. And then kind of like when the adrenaline rush comes down, you see everything clear and you're like, what the fuck just happened? So when I started drinking a lot of water, kind of starting seeing like myself, and I'm like, why am I like this? You know what I mean?
I've definitely asked myself that.
Yeah, bro. And that led to me going into like my self-love journey and, making sure that like I was just drinking water every day. I was like, yo, if I drink enough water every day, I always feel good. I make the right decisions for myself. I don't keep putting myself in these crazy situations. Emotionally, I was able to like, not suffer as much in terms of being like attached to certain emotions. Because water's a solvent. It'll dissolve the shit, and it also solves shit. It's crazy. Water's super spiritual too.
No, it definitely is.
So that helps with spiritual health, which is connected with the mind. But I would say besides the water, uh, walking, and being in nature and grounding, walking with my feet on the earth, on the dirt, and the grass. Anytime, and this is when I really kind of just got my introduction to like mental health and started realizing like I'm dealing with things and that's okay. I would be in the backyard every day, bro. Every morning for at least an hour, bro. Just walking around with my feet in the grass. And I would literally start feeling energies just draining, like from my calves and down through my feet to my toes, just draining. And I started feeling like a little more relaxed, after time. This is not just like after the first day, this is after some time, after I started seeing different patterns. And I was like, damn, I'm holding on to so much things, and I think that's what gets us out of whack up here sometimes, is holding on to so many things. So along with the water, the walking, and being in nature, putting my feet in the dirt, in the earth, Mama Earth, she takes away that pain. She takes away, all that suffering, all the shit that's out of whack. It gets you realigned,
Definitely.
physiological, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely. No, definitely being in nature. Nature is the best medicine. I ain't never really been fond of like taking medicines to heal myself.
Right.
That was like man-made.
Right.
And I didn't deal with like substance abuse and stuff, but I'm talking about like from a therapeutic setting. I never really believed in like just taking a pill and thinking it's gonna be all better. I really feel like nature just reconnects us with that divinity on the inside of us that's, omnipresent.
Big facts. No, I agree, man. And talking about nature, like what we're all actually trying to do, even when you're talking about like mental health, self-love, spirituality, medicine, which is to heal, which is to be healthy, which is to heal thyself. This goes back to us trying to just come back to our human nature. You know what I mean? Even the things that are like spiritual or in the mental realm or emotional realm is for human nature. It's for this 3D experience we're having. Where the process of healing is actually it's funny when I say this shit out loud, bro. But the process of healing is actually a backwards process. It's a process of returning back to natural state.
Yeah, that inner child.
Exactly.
Yeah, that inner child.
Exactly. So it's like the best example I could give is like when you get a cut, right? And you give it some time, the cut starts healing, it starts scabbing up. And what they tell you, don't touch that scab, right? Because what happens?
It starts bleeding again.
That shit starts bleeding again, opens back up, and now you're gonna take that double up the time. But the whole goal of this cut healing, that process, is you want it to return back to how it was before.
Right.
So, there's a lot of emphasis nowadays on all this healing stuff, mental health, emotional healing, trauma, etc., etc. The list goes on for days, and we're going to be here to go through it with you guys as time goes on. But we have to be aware that the point that we're in time right now is the future is actually returning back to where we come from, returning to what was, the natural state of things. So when we're healing, just like a cut, don't touch the shit. There's one point where we have to externalize it because we've been internalizing it. We got to vent it out, So we have to talk about it. We got to get it out, communicate, whether it's verbally, audibly, or on paper or whatever. However, you got to get it out through art, any expression. But then after that, let it go.
Yeah. Letting go can be the hardest part, though.
Letting go is the hardest part for sure. Because letting go also brings change. That's the big change. And that goes with law of detachment. Letting things go so you make space for new things to come in. But part of healing is returning back to state. Don't keep touching the cut. Don't keep, playing around with it and thinking, oh, it looks better than before, even though it's not 100%. Now I'm good. Let me go fuck around again. Nah, that comes hand in hand with the self-love. Because if you love yourself, you're going to keep doing the same shit you've been doing to hurt yourself. You feel me?
You got to love yourself more than the familiarity of the pain. Because that people learn to love that too, just because it's familiar. So
yeah,
you got to learn to love yourself more than that. Because even back to the discipline thing, a lot of people be like, "Man, how did you get to that point? You lifting 400 pounds, or man, how you get running 7 miles, or man, I wish I could read like that, or man, how'd you get to drinking that much water every day?"
Yeah,
it's like you gotta love what you trying to do more than that comfort zone of making an excuse and not doing it.
Right.
Because if you're not doing it, you gotta succumb to being a slave or a victim to that lower self. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a lengthy process of learning to love and trust the journey.
Nah, yeah, definitely. That's funny you say that because it's like when you think of like love and relationship with someone, and it's like, what's the main thing? Trust. So like when you said that right now, you gotta learn how to love and like trust the journey. Even though we've been knowing that and talking about that for a minute, it hit different right now. And I was like, wow, like if you really like love yourself, which is to love life, and which makes it easier to love, other people and everything outside of you, you just gotta trust the shit. Because that goes back to other things we got to heal, like, with significant others and whatnot, in terms of like, shit could be good, everything's going great, and as above the below comes type shit where it be like, these thoughts creeping, what they doing when they're not with me? You know what I mean? Who are they talking to? Or even if they go talk to another person, like, what they talking about? That possessiveness type of like energy that is usually hovering around like relationships after a while, even when they're good. But it's because of self. It's not because of the relationship or the dynamic or anything,
Yeah, somebody told me that how people treat you is just a reflection of themselves, and that what is they doing when I'm gone. That just goes down to we got to be able to stop projecting that shadow version of ourselves onto others and situations. You know what I mean? Because reality is never how we perceive it.
Yeah.
It's through so many different aspects of our being that's making this perception the way it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's kind of like, I always say there's different version of us, of ourselves. There's different characters in a way, in terms of like saying, whatever kind of environment you're in, is going to determine and factor that, who's around you or how you feeling at that moment, all affects all that stuff. So it's also like there's multiple lenses we see things through too. You know what I mean? Like we could see things in different ways at certain times in our lives, you know? So perception is big on that too. And I guess that goes to like kind of how are we perceiving things, you know, and kind of checking ourselves in terms of like, are you what you seeing is right? You know what I mean? Might need a double check, double look.
Exactly. And just breaking the conditions, breaking the conditions that we've been given since we were kids, since we were socialized to be around people. We just gotta break the conditions and preconceptions and learn to be, receptive to new information. Because they want you to stay in that bubble and just drift like a cloud.
Yeah.
Instead of, planting that foundation and growing like a plant. You feel me? That's how I gotta be sometimes. You gotta learn to break that conditioning.
Nah, yeah, man. That the conditioning, that's the deep of the deep end. You know, there's for anyone that's not familiar with those terms and that reference or the context of like that deep conditioning, that's like everything you kind of stored and lived through to this point to believe it is what it is in a way, or the way you've been shown the world or shown for things to be what they think, like what perception of it is to be. So a conditioning, I always say too, conditioning, I always think hair. So it's like, say someone that has like, big frizzy curly hair or something, and they use hair conditioner, the conditioner is gonna make the hair go soft and flat, like, go straight type thing. You know what I mean? It's gonna kill all that it's gonna condition it to be different. I always think of air conditioner too, where it's like you're conditioning the home to be a cooler temperature than it is outside.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that world, like if no one leaves that house, they think that's always the temperature.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you go outside and you're like, what? The sun's bright as hell. It's hot. You're like, what's going on out here? It's a whole different world out here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we got to break with when it comes to conditioning. But, one of the challenges with that is a lot of people feel like they have no sense of direction with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I kind of thought, like, what are things that can help people cope? Well, what are things in this sense, too, that can help move people in the right direction? And it's not even like we got to show you how to get there, but, I always think about that. Like, what is it that just could get a person in the right step, taking the right step in the right way? So it's like, I think that's one of the big challenges is like maybe some people do become aware of this stuff, aware of everything they're going through or the way they are, but they just don't know what to do after that,
Yeah.
And that's always the toughest part because I feel like, especially, our generation, we're about to wake up to everything, It's been happening for a while now, but it's about to get even on a different scale of things in terms of we're going to find out a lot of shit is bullshit. And, the system wasn't the world we thought it was. It's just a little bubble. But what comes with that is a lot of people are going to be like, oh, yeah, fuck this, fuck that. Or like, damn, my whole life is a lie or whatever. But then they don't really know what to do. So they still stuck in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you gotta be willing. You gotta be willing. Some people not willing.
Yeah, that's big facts.
Gotta be receptive, because if you're not willing, there's really no hope at all.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. Yeah, but hopefully, whoever's meant to find the way will find the way. We here swimming every day, and we're gonna just keep trying to do the right thing. I mean, that's all I can tell people. Just try to do the right thing every day.
One day at a time.
One day at a time, one brick at a time. But I think that's good stuff, man. I really appreciate having this conversation with you, bro.
Likewise.
I think this was a great episode, a great intro. Let us know what y'all think. You know what I'm saying? And we about to be dropping on some
Consistent.
consistent, on some hot, on some fire, on some water type shit. You know, we swimming, baby. This is Swim Network. This is Climate Control. I go by the name Willie Contraband. This is my boy.
TAMO.
And we see y'all next time, all right?
Peace.
Fire.